welcome to Fanboy Planet. A couple of weeks ago, the Walt Disney Company was kind enough to let me talk to animator Renato dos Anjos, who was a head of animation on the Oscar nominated Encanto. So here it is, and you better believe we're going to talk about Bruno. Renato, welcome. Thanks so much for joining, and I love the backdrop. This is like your underground bunker, right?
This is my bunker here, yeah. So I should have thought about putting a virtual background like you did. So I appreciate you representing my film and
Trying to rep, yeah.
thank you,
Hey,
Derek.
so just to set the level, for somebody watching this, and honestly, it's been a long time since I studied animation.
Mhm.
So what does it mean to be head of animation on a feature?
The basic responsibility. I mean, it's a very complicated film, and so my position itself ended up kind of having different roles in it. But the principal part of it is looking after the animation. Looking after the movement of the characters. Animation. You can think of it in different ways. There's effects animation. There's cloth simulation. There's layout animation. My responsibility is in the characters, basically their acting and their performances, their movement. That's sort of like my world, and my responsibility is to kind of look after the team that's animating the film.
So then, excellent. We get to actually do this. Get the big one out of the way. We get to
Mhm.
talk about Bruno because you did, as you say, you brought it up. You did the movement or oversaw saw the movement, the dancing, the characters, which are just each and every person. And they are people, very unique. So you've worked on this film that has this musical number that is shot to the top of the chart. Your work has become a TikTok sensation. That's what the kids tell me. Uh, and but I also think the interesting thing that I see on the internet is how this has really impacted cultural conversation.
Mhm.
And what was the development of that scene like?
Mhm. Yeah, there's again multiple facets of things that kind of were happening there. Um, the the cultural aspect of the film was very important from the beginning. We knew we wanted the movie to be very culturally accurate. So there's a lot of work went into that. We can talk about that as well. The musical number specifically was one of the biggest musical numbers in the film, and myself and my partner Kira, was the other head of animation on the film. We had worked together on Ralph Breaks the Internet. Ralph Breaks the Internet. In that film, there was a musical number there that we got to use a work of a choreographer. So walking to Encanto, we saw an early screening, and we knew we really wanted that to be a part of our process, having a choreographer working with us. So the directors were on the same page, already kind of thinking about that as well. The one thing that was a little different in this film, as far as working with a choreographer, we also had someone working with us post the choreography. The choreography process was done and recorded. Kai Martinez, she was working with us all the way through our production. So she's a dancer and also a choreographer. Our main choreographer, his name is Jamal Sims. He did the big choreography of that number, and she was one of the dancers and his partner as well on that side of things. So we hired her to kind of work with animation all the way through production. Anything related to dancing and choreography, she was with us. So that was great having her with us in the team. So we knew that after seeing the screening, a very early screening for the film, we knew we wanted the choreography partnership to be part of the process. So we got that very early on that sequence. So and then dancing is very difficult as you can, for an animator, because it really involves a lot of really difficult locomotion, timing, physics, and all that stuff. On top of that, you've got acting. These characters are acting on top of it, so you've got to figure out how to dance, how to act, and also move the story along. One of the things that I love the most about the songs that Lin Manuel did for this film is that the songs are always kind of moving the story forward. They're not just musical beats; they actually belong in the film, and they move the characters and they move the storyline. So the once we had the choreography kind of figured out with Kai and Jamal, we started working with the team of animators, doing a very we first started doing like a previous version of that. We did a really rough pass of animating those characters through the backgrounds, so layout had something to work with. Layout is our department that kind of sets up the camera movement and timing for the scenes. Once that was all done, once we had the layout done, the choreography was sort of already figured out. We started animating those shots, and then it really becomes about character, which each individual character, how do they move. We had Peppa dancing with Felix, and the two, even if they're dancing the same kind of thing, they have very different kind of proportions, very different personality. Every one of them has to move very differently. So that's the responsibility of the animator to kind of add that personality onto each one of those characters, not just through obviously through acting, but in this case, because of the dancing is such an important component of it, through how they dance as well, needed to be very character specific. So uh, yeah, I'm working on those things. That sequence in itself, the musical number in itself was very challenging, but so fun, to kind of see come to life, because you had all these people kind of working on it from story very early on, the directors and Lynn kind of conceiving the lyrics, all the way through the choreographers kind of bringing their things and animators kind of picking it up and making it what it is in the film. So it was joy, very time consuming, but super fun to be part of that. So,
And it goes all the way through. I mean,
mhm,
yes, all that acting, all that character is amazing throughout. And when this was being developed, we both touched on the cultural impact. Did you know
mhm.
that this was gonna make this kind of noise, an impact on the culture?
Well, we knew we were everyone was very invested in making sure the movie looked the way it did. There was a lot of work, a lot of effort that went into that. We worked with consultants from a lot of Colombian people were involved with the team. We had people, consultants that were actually working with us on a weekly basis, kind of looking at the work. After, just for you to see, like after uh, let me just rephrase this whole thing. The process was kind of manifold, like everything in this movie. There was a ton of complexity to it, but there was a lot of education at the beginning. We were talking to the consultants about Colombia and history and culture and different the makeup of the people. And the different diversities and how people interact, the different cultures, how the coast is different from the center of the country, and the mountains, how people are just different from one another, that makes this beautiful kind of like combination of colors and personalities and all sorts of things. So we did a lot of education at the beginning. We the presentations and conversations with our consultants as we were animating these films. We had a lot of reference to work with and a lot of things that we know we needed to look after. But at the end of every sequence, when we were close to finishing animating them, we would show them to our consultants for them to see if everything was as great as it needed to be. That was a huge kind of help, to make sure we're doing the right thing. But as an animator as well, like every time I start on these films, I put like these little benchmarks, that things that I want to accomplish, and so I can look back and see what is that we did and what is that we were able to accomplish. There was a few things on this film. One, we really wanted to be culturally specific, so we put a lot of time and effort on that. Like I said, work on the consultants and doing a lot of research and fixing things when they needed to be fixed, and make sure they were as correct as we as correct as possible for us to do. And the other thing that we wanted, which is maybe nothing, but we wanted these characters to be very uh, to work very closely, to have really strong physical connection between the characters, which is very time consuming and difficult to do. So, which turned out to be actually a good thing because in Colombia people are very physical with one another. There are lots of hugs, and there's this really strong kind of physical connection between people, between parents and kids, and friends. People hold hands a lot. People hug, and a lot of really warm, and there's a warmth to the connections and to the relationships that we wanted to convey. But before I even knew any of that, we really know that as animators, we wanted to make this movie to feel like the characters were really interacting with one another more so than we normally do, because it is time consuming. So we wanted to push that a lot further on this film. So the two things kind of combined, which was great. We wanted to do that as animators. We want these characters to feel very pliable and very connected, and culturally turn out to be the right thing to do, because it is something very common in Colombia. So
That's great. And now I'm going to go back and watch other Disney
mhm.
films and pay attention to that physicality
Yeah.
because, obviously with some of the numbers and how much part I probably watched Encanto more than I have any other film, like in a short period of time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, and it's great that Colombia is represented, and you yourself are Brazilian. So,
Mhm.
would you love to see Disney turn to a story about Brazil?
That would be amazing. I'm sure one day will happen. But to be honest, like I've been to Colombia before, and on an unrelated Disney event thing, I went to an animation festival there, to a SIGGRAPH, and when I landed in there, was in Bogota. It really felt very similar and very familiar to the peoples that I knew in Brazil. There's that the everything kind of um, I don't know how else to compare it, but here everything is like really in the States, and everything is really quick. Everything is moving really fast. But it felt like when I landed in there, everything kind of cooled down a little bit. Everything was a little calmer and a little bit more relaxed, and that's how I feel when I go back to Brazil as well. It just feels like things move at a different pace, and that type of connection and warmth, it's also kind of common. The two countries are very they're big Catholic countries, and all that. So I think there was a lot of similarity between them.
Mhm.
And I actually went to Brazil in December, and the comments that I got, people really felt like they could see themselves on the screen, which
Oh,
was
that's
great.
wonderful.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah.
And you and I have talked before. You started in feature animation really or in animation as the industry was, not just Pixar, but moving in towards computer animation.
Mhm.
And, so you're practically there from the beginning. What's gotten easier and what's gotten harder with that process?
Mm, I don't think anything has gotten easier. I think every time things get easier, there's a tendency to kind of push the technology and to do as
Yeah.
much as you can with what you got. So I always, if anything, I think the movies have gotten harder to make, just because there's more that you can do, and there's then an appetite from the directors to kind of make more. um, I think the movies are just way more vibrant, and way more specific, and you can do a lot more. But because what we do, it's still very much handcrafted.
Yeah.
It just I don't know. I can't describe any other way besides saying that the movies, from my perspective, have gotten more complex and more difficult. But they look better, and they've got a lot
Yeah.
more nuance, and like just Mirabelle, for instance, looking at the dress on that character and her hair. Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
jaw dropping,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's not easy to do, but I guarantee you, like a few years back, she wouldn't have looked the same. There's no way she would have looked that way.
Right.
So,
Yeah. You keep raising the bar and then meeting the bar and then raising it again. And I think audiences get used to it too. And so, when you're doing all this, let's step back from it. What do you do to refill your creative spirit?
Um, I like sculpting. I love sculpting. So every at the end of every film, I try to make a sculpture. I did not do one in this film, but every movie when I finished, there's such a it's a weird thing. Like when you're, especially when you're heading a film, it's so intense because you've got to be on, like, at least 12, 14 hours a day, just kind of like on it. There's everybody needs something. There's always something that you're trying to do. It's, Monday through Saturday, you're just on it. And then when the movie finishes, there's nothing to do. And it feels very weird. You almost kind of, some people kind of get sick because you go from like 100 miles an hour to zero. I try to not to kind of go from 100 to zero because I know that doesn't work well for me. At the end of every production, I try to make a sculpture, because at least I can go from a 12-hour day to like a 8-hour day instead of, not doing anything for a couple of weeks. So that's what I do. I try to do that. And this studio is actually really kind of cool. They've got a lot of they invest a lot in making sure you're up to date. They have live drawing classes 3 times a week. I think if it's not 3 times a week, it's at least two, but I think it's 3 times a week. They have classes during lunch, from noon to 2. They've got live drawing, so you can kind of stop what you're doing, kind of do some live drawing classes, which is great. They've got people that come in during lunch to talk, filmmakers to come from the outside to talk to the team. It still happens, but now it's all over Zoom, obviously. But they're very invested in making sure you've got opportunities to continue to learn and grow. So I try to take advantage of that as much as possible. But the main thing for me, it's at the end of if I'm supervising on a film, it's about 2.5 years. At the end of that, I try to make a sculpture. And then which is cool. It's different, but the same. I'm still creating a character and trying to think about personality and and expressions and little things like that. It feels very, very connected with what I do. So that one over there, it's something that I did. I forgot which movie I made after that.
Is the wolf? Yeah.
Yeah, the wolf. I can pick up and show you.
I know. I get fascinated seeing all this behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, collect stuff too. Those other two I bought. This one is from Africa, and this one is from Japan.
Yeah.
So, but this is the dog thing.
Oh, that's gorgeous. See, and I was going to say because obviously, yeah. Again, you and I are we're neighbors. Oh, that's it moves too. So I know because I follow your Instagram account, and it's been
Oh
a
yeah.
while. Yeah, you haven't updated in a while, but that you I was trying like for an hour to come up with a good brew no theater pun, and I couldn't. So you make these no masks, Japanese no theater, and they're gorgeous, and
Thank you.
so. What draws you to that? I mean, is that just an outgrowth of the sculpture?
Yeah, it's an outgrowth of the sculptures. I've started doing many, many decades ago. I tried to do claymation. I actually did a commercial with claymation one time, and I really loved the process of working with clay. So I did it after that. The natural evolution was to do some more, more serious kind of sculptures, and I've done a few of them with clay. And then over time, I learned about this Japanese theater. It's called no theater, and it's been around for centuries. And there's some incredible artists that make these masks that they're used in the theater for the performers, and they're just incredible. They're from, I think they have masks all the way up back to the 1400s that some of them are still being used by actors in the play, and the play is actually still being played in Japan. I got to see one when I was visiting there. So the reason I start making them, it's because I wanted to do something that was completely the opposite of being the computer, because I find the two things help each other a little bit, so, and the art form, they still make those masks the same way they made it, centuries ago. They don't use sand, paper. They don't use anything electronic. It's all made with chisels and pigments, and you have to make your own color with rocks and you bend metal. There's a lot of work on bending metal for teeth and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all made by hand with you start with like a block of wood, and then you start chiseling away at it. It's very therapeutic because it's just like I said, it's all done by hand, and it's very tactile, and there's nothing but just your will to just kind of sit down there and kind of slow down and and take your time kind of making something. So, and like I said, there's a lot of really great artists that you can. And actually, the funny thing about them is that unlike I'm very passionate about this because a lot of especially centuries ago, the art form, this masks were made by priests. They were made by priests, and they none of them will sign them because signing was a sign of I don't know,
Vanity.
vanity. Yeah, so they have these beautiful masks without nobody knows who made them because they didn't sign them back in the day. But today nowadays people sign them, but they're still incredible. Yeah, and there's about 200 masks, 200 different characters in this place. So they're just incredible. If you have a chance to check them out, they're just gorgeous, amazing artists making beautiful things by hand. I love that. So anyways, that's why, for me it kind of blended the two.
Yeah.
Sculpting with clay was great, but this one thing was more focused on movement, because it's made for theater, and it has to work from people that are sitting very close to the stage, all the way from people that are sitting all the way back on the stage. So the expressions have to read a certain way. The lighting depending on how the actors kind of tilts his head or her head, it changes the expression on this character. So it's really fascinating. So that's why it felt like it married my animation brain, because the movement and the expressions, and my need to kind of make something with my own hands. So I don't know,
Well,
that's why.
well, great. Well, thank you, and congratulations. Because I don't think I said that up top. Congratulations on all the well-deserved nominations.
Thank you, thank you.
That this film has garnered, and I hope that we get to see a photo of you at least holding the Oscar, because I think that's going to happen for you.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
so we'll talk later. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, buddy. Good seeing you, and I appreciate the time, and appreciate you seeing the film and supporting us.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any Fanboy Planet content. And remember, use your powers for good.